Okay, I think we did it. So what happened, I figured out what happened. Prior to stream starting, I always have to check that it's the YouTube RTMS that's the thing that's being used, because apparently if I stream on that computer and then come back to this one, it drops all the settings for some reason. No idea. Just decides, yeah, no, he doesn't want those settings anymore, and decides to stop and start streaming to Twitch at 1 billion bits per second, as much as humanly possible. So whatever that symptom is, but now we're back to using the regular YouTube streaming service, because that's all that works. But anyway, let's continue our regularly scheduled program. Okay. There we go. All patched up. Potato? What do you mean potato? Like as in, I'm streaming from a potato? I'm streaming from a potato? I don't think so. Wow, 25 stream watch streak? Hey, thank you for the streak. Thank you for the streak. It's a Mactato. It's true. It is a Mactato. Okay, let's get back to it. We are back for real. We're back for real this time. Now we can continue with the mission of explaining Slapchop. Explaining Slapchop and demonstrating our technique at a proper frame rate that everyone loves. That everyone loves and enjoys. So the green that I'm going to use is still this from this set. It's a green, it's orc skin green. And I'll show this to you from beginning to end, because we're not gonna do this for every orc in this set, but we're using this as a demonstration of Slapchop so that we know how to do it. But the rest of them, we can try different schemes for the skin. But first, we need to chop it up. So to do that, we're going to be applying this white from the sponge right on top of the model. We're going to go from the top down. We're just going to do kind of a typical Slapchop method. So we're going from top down, using the sponge to do a heavy, what would be a heavy dry brushing, but in this case we're doing sponging, to all of the top areas so that the light looks like it's coming directly downward onto the model. And what this will do is this will automatically tell the contrast paints to leave these areas light and the underside areas darker, which will give it a natural looking light profile. One thing we definitely have to do though is we have to let this dry all the way before we continue, because this is kind of a watery paint. And we'll probably do one more coat of it. I've seen my Beast Boss paint, and the snake thing on his arm is mixed with Abaddon Black and it's silver paint. Ooh, I'll have to double check. I'll have to double check that because I don't remember it off the top of my head, but that sounds like it sounds sick. Okay, here's our second coat of that white. It's coming through a little bit better now. It needs to be opaque enough to actually make a difference for this contrast paint. Ghillie Dew is what you used. It's a little hard to see on this gray because this gray is already a little light, but it will come through when we apply the contrast. I think this is the quote-unquote recommended gray that they say use this for contrast paints. But it may be a slightly darker one, but that's okay. Okay, let's let that layer dry. But let's turn down the brightness to see if you can see. It's a little tough to see, but we have the gray on top, or the gray underneath, and then the white on top. And we'll do one more coat of the white before we get going. But while the first coat is drying, I will prepare our markers. This is the first time I'm using these. I'm kind of excited about it because I don't know what they're going to be like. But first, let me turn the music back on. I promise it won't break stream this time because we actually have the correct settings turned on. So here we go. Unboxing of the starter set for the speed paint markers. Comes with a little manual thing. Just get them all out of there. Okay. Throw that over there. So it comes with a bunch of replacement heads for the markers. And then here are all the colors. So we've got a metallic, blood red, bone, gray, leather, fire orange. Do we have a black? Yes, grim black, blue, and green. So I think we have pretty much every color that we would need for this model the way that we're doing it. So we're going to use blood red, bone, green, black, and silver. Do we need gargoyle gray? I don't think so. Let's start with these. Blood is first. Okay. So this first coat is dry. Let's apply the second one before we continue. Because like I said, we need to have a very opaque top white layer so that the contrast paint can actually do its effect. Red goes faster. It does. Scientifically proven. Okay. Let's get these. Gonna get them pulled over. Yeah, they're gonna get lots of traffic infringements. They're gonna be in traffic court a lot. But a lot of it'll also get thrown out because it only looked like they were going faster conceptually, and the HPC won't be able to prove using their radar that they were actually going 65 and a 50. The best orc surgeon would literally guarantee that you live. And I'm not saying that because I'm not saying that they'll do the best, like they'll psychically prevent you from dying. Like if they were like, okay, I've got to make this human live, and I'm the best of the best. I'm gonna do it and prove everybody that I'm the best. It's all orcs. Isn't it all orcs? All orcs have that power, the psychic hive mind power. Okay, let's prepare our blood red. So to do this, I guess we just remove the cap, and then we pump the. Okay. And we have to let the paint come through. Oh, we use this, okay. The top of the cap. And we let the paint come through and saturate the tip. Okay. What's going on, Lizard? We're testing our speed paint markers. So it's nice and saturated now. Let's try on this surface here. We're going to apply it to the kneecap and see how it looks. Now, to my understanding, it's the same exact method as doing it with any other speed paint. But actually, wait a minute. Not the kneecap, because I just realized that I left plastic sprue on both kneecaps. So we'll be doing a different part of it first so that I can fix that. Let's do this right here. Right under the bone. The application is nice. Very nice, actually. That's actually really, really, really nice. Wow, I'm really actually I'm really impressed by that. That went on really evenly and smooth. This is the first time I'm using markers with speed paint. This is a trial. I think what's impressing me right now is the flow rates and consistency, because the problem that you end up having with contrast paints with brushes is that they'll dry out, and the amount in which you put in the brush changes based on, you know, the user. The user will either put more or less. With this, you're consistently getting the exact same amount of paint moving through the medium, or moving through the medium, always. So I'm like, right now, it's always going to be the exact same consistency. This is great. Wow. I really like this. I have nothing but good things to say about this. This is great, and it's fast. The color is nice. It's not different than the... So let's see it dry really quick on these two areas that we just did. Now, something that I do want to say is that the tip, so the marker itself is pretty easy to control, but as you can see, it's getting little bits on certain things that I don't actually want it to get on. But that may just be me not, like there's like little tiny little speckles that'll get on stuff. Now, let's see. That shouldn't be too much of an issue, but with contrast paint, sometimes it can be. Specifically because when I come back to do, say, this part, it's going to be stained and it's going to be a slightly different hue than everything else. And the only way to fix it is to repaint that either white or gray, but it won't have the same consistency as the other areas. So it's one of those things where, like, contrast paints can sometimes be less forgiving than regular paints because they're so hue specific. That's why some people say, like, if you're a beginner, don't start with contrast paints, because you might be frustrated with how difficult they are to work with. But I am really liking how this is being applied so far. Something that I will say, I wish that there was a higher level of contrast here. And all that means is that I wish that I'd used a darker gray prime than the gray that I used, so that the white application was a little more exaggerated. But that has nothing to do with the marker itself. The marker is solid. That's okay. Speed paints are contrast paints. So a contrast paint is a paint that's designed to be a one coat, shades and everything. tool, or medium, sorry. And the work is in the prep. So like the way that you prime the model and highlight it first and then you apply this. Because the shadows and things are, like that are supposed to be automatic. Yeah, yellow is tough. Yellow is notoriously tough. Do this. Yeah, and what I'm really liking about these is that no matter like how you apply, the consistency of the paint is the same. Because another problem with contrast paints on a brush is that you have to be very consistent with your brush strokes. This is pretty nice. I would recommend these. Now, I've only just started using them, so don't quote me yet. Because then I have to continue to use them for the other parts that are going to be harder to get to. Primed gray, then applied white, yes. Now, I think I should have primed it with a darker gray than what I primed it with. But so I primed it gray and then highlighted white with a sponge. That's called slap chop. And I did it from the top going down. What primers? I used Gray Sear from Citadel is the primer. I like Citadel primers. I like their cans. I like the rattle cans for two reasons, actually. I find that they last pretty long. Like, I've never had an issue where like I feel like I just got that, except I with Army Painter, I almost feel like they have less paint in them. Or at least less usable paint. But Citadel's rattle cans I've liked. I've never had any issues. And I continue to buy them. The price is crazy. So I'm running into like my first kind of issue with these is that they're almost not fine enough. And what I mean by that is that the tip is almost not small enough to get into these kind of nooks and crannies easily. So there are some areas that are like like see how it touched the back of his head? But it still hasn't gotten quite all the way into that recess like I would want it to. And as far as I understand, there aren't different sized marker tips. I like the airbrush primers. I use Vallejo when I use my airbrush for priming. For two reasons. One, the price is really good. But the second one is that the consistency is already primed for airbrushes, so you don't have to do much to ensure that you're getting a good flow through your airbrush. You say it's looking orange. To me, it looks pretty red in front of me. It might be a trick of the camera actually, because it's very red in front of me. Maybe it'll be more red when I apply different colors. So like the skin and other areas. Okay, the tip kind of feels like maybe, so I've been using it for most of this model so far. It feels like the tip is getting a little dry. That's been how many minutes? Maybe 7 or 8 minutes. So to fix that, I guess you just take the cap and it has this little reservoir top and you stick the tip in there and you push down and that will resaturate the top like that. There we go. Now we want a good amount of paint to go on because that's how the color creates the pooling that we need to make those shadows that we like. So let's actually go over this part again. Yeah, that's much better. What do you say? Bolt gun or what? Sorry, I've been looking at the model this whole time. I haven't been looking at chat enough. I summon Golem to aid us in our need. Have you heard of sanding a mini after priming? Personally, I wouldn't do it. And the only reason is it will be there, like it's just redundancy. I have heard people doing that. I've never understood the purpose behind it. If the purpose is somehow to make the model smoother or the coat smoother, I would just suggest changing your priming technique because you run the risk of diminishing detail. These models are already crazy small. Sanding anything other than sprue bits, you run the risk of deleting important facets of your model that are very difficult to revive. Yes, it's exclamation point extension. There we go. I've never heard of a compelling reason to do the sanding post prime. I've never understood it personally. It just but it also just depends on the model. Like if your model is like a smooth surface already, like it's supposed to be smooth, and you prime and you want it to be polished smooth, then yeah, sanding would probably be beneficial. But for something like this, I would never recommend sanding because the armor is supposed to look pitted and gross. Oh, also something to note for these markers too, by the way, if anybody's specifically thinking about these markers, do not press down. It's not meant to be under pressure. You're treating it like a brush. So gently apply the paint as if you're using a brush. But this is making really fast work of this model. Because normally I would have to go back and deal with brush-related stuff, but I've just been able to go with this thing. This is probably the fastest experience painting that you'll ever have. Definitely. Now, just because we finished this coat does not mean that we're done. We'll go back and like edge highlight to make things look better. But I definitely am enjoying this processing. Especially with the idea that I gotta do 19 of these guys for the game that I'm gonna play with them. It makes it feel like, oh, that's doable. Oh, by the way, don't worry, we are going to do a secondary black color for the armor. So it's going to be red and black, but we're putting red down first because the black going over it will have a much easier time, one, becoming black over a darker color than the gray and white that we have. But two, I also kind of want it to be tinted red, the black. It'll be a reddish black hue, which will look very cool. All right, I think that we're nearly there in terms of the armor pieces. Yeah, incredibly quick process. I liked it. Time to celebrate. You won something? The greed has corrupted you immediately. Mass bomb. Everybody loves the mass bombing. That's a good clip. Okay. I think we've gotten all of the main armor chunks. Now we can move to a secondary color. Let's do the skin next. I want to see how the skin looks. But first I want to do a couple little fixes so that we don't have a weirdly messed up area of skin. Okay, but before we move on, let's have everybody look at the armor first. So let's take a look at this coat using the marker the way it was intended. I think that that's a pretty solid red. The contrast can be turned up if we had done more of a exaggerated slap chop method. He's not faster, so let's add some more colors and we'll see where we're at. So let's go with the green next, but first I'm gonna fix just a couple of areas. I'm going to see if I can fix that little bit of red that's there on the head. And we're just using a little bit of white for that. Same thing with the hands over here. I want to try and cover up these areas that got a little bit on it, because that will show when applying the skin color. At least make it a little lighter. So here's a good example of how the contrast paint works. So see the, so look at this armor texture right here. So somebody asked what speed paint is. So look at how just applying that one coat, there's darker and lighter areas on this armor scale, where with a normal paint, it wouldn't pool like that and dry darker in those specific areas. That's what contrast paint is designed to do. It's supposed to dry in that manner. Just fixing some not covered areas here. Got the cheat on the test? Shame. What a shame. Okay. Sorry, I'm just getting, now that it's dried, some areas have sort of revealed themselves with that don't have coverage. That's also a benefit and a curse with contrast paints is that where it's not applied, it's very visible. You fail the bad painter curse, you become a great, yes, exactly. And nobody wants that. You get handed a diploma and says, I'm sorry, you've become a great painter. No, it can't be. I became Japanese. What are you talking about? Why is Golem censored? Am I censored? Oh, hang on. That was, hang on. It's because my phone died. It's because my phone died, and my phone is what I was using for my camera. So hang on, I need to change my camera. And I will do this. So that's what we're doing in place of my camera. Did the music change? When I activated the Discord call so that my PNG tuber would actually work. I wonder why my phone died. It was plugged in. Weird. Power of God and anime on my side. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Attack requires a valid target. You're not validly targeting anybody. You're invalidly targeting people. Okay. We're gonna try the green now. Here comes the orc green, everybody. Get excited. Hit the gritty. You're being attacked emotionally, spiritually. Okay, here comes the green. See how this looks. That's very green. That is super green. Look at how green that is. That is a green boy. But green is bestest, right? That's what all orcs, true orcs, know. Won 5 from the catch game. Nice. This chat has gone out of control. Don't worry. If the bombing becomes too much, I will lower the threshold, like the cooldown of certain things. Yeah. Please avoid spamming. It makes it less fun for other people if you can. Nine more weeks. Woo! No washes. Ooh, geez. That's gross. So I'm learning one of the important lessons of contrast paint right now is that you go the way that you should be applying is in terms of layers, and what I mean is lowest layer to highest layer. So I've had to go in between these cracks to get to the skin, and by doing that, the green marker has touched portions of the red, changing that color a little bit. So learn from my mistakes. If you're quick, you can wipe it off with your finger. If you touch somewhere that you didn't mean to. Okay. The inside of this hand's kind of difficult to reach. There we go. Now let's get really, really saturated for the head, the most prominent piece of the model. Ooh, that's rough. Whew. Like I said, it's pretty difficult to get into every area with this marker. But I don't know that it would be any easier with a brush, to be honest. Gonna be the skull on his shoulder. Bone. We're gonna make him. Still gonna make it bone colored. And no, we're not using markers for absolutely everything. We're just doing the base colors and everything like that. We actually have a bone color. This one. Pallid bone. But let's continue. While that dries, let's grab our polished silver. So this is a metallic paint while it's separated. You could, the purpose of this is to test this method, because they make these models to be painted as they're built, or like as a fully built thing. So I'm prepping the metallic marker right now. Much thicker, it looks like. Make sure that's very saturated. Okay. So here's a metallic marker. This is called polished silver. And again, if you guys don't like this, don't worry. This is the only one that I'm doing this method on. This is the only guy that I'm doing this on. The rest of them are going to be more traditional. It's a dino. I think it's a dinosaur. It's like one of. I think it's probably one of the lizard men from AOS. I'd say that's probably very likely. Oop, got a little silver on the face. Gotta be careful. We'll fix that, though. What? Hang on, I can't see the chat. Are you planning on trying the other painting methods later down the line? Oh yeah, absolutely. This is the only time we're going to be using this. We're going to be using other stuff with the other models. I just wanted to test this because I have them. And I'm like, when's going to be an opportunity? Because I'm army painting. I have to do 19 of these guys, so it's not like I'm painting a hero character like some of the other minis that we've been doing. I kind of have to move fast because I only have, it's on the 14th. I only have so many days to complete this army. Out of sheer ignorance. Got him. Hang on, I gotta turn the music down a little bit. It's kind of blasting in my ear. There we go, that's better. Doing all these little chainmail bits. There we go. Tism a rock with paint. You mean like tell the paint? It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Okay, let's let that dry. Oh, we need to do the axe, sorry. Hang on. It's a very large axe. And don't worry, we're gonna be zhuzhing up this axe before we're done. We're gonna be zhuzhing up the whole thing. We're not gonna be just leaving it the way that it will be, but I do want to see what this looks like using just the markers at first, and then we'll apply all kinds of other little effects to it after the fact. But we have to let the markers do a little bit of the heavy lifting. Because there's lots that can be done with this axe. Got such a big surface area and cool features. Okay. We're an igneous rock. Nice. Let's do the bone. All the bone bits. It's censored, shut up. Censorship. Okay, here's the bone color. It's very translucent. Very thin. I would describe it. We don't allow that word. Is it your favorite word? Good night. Thank you for being here. Okay. We are getting to a spot where we have nearly 100% of the model covered in the base colors. We're getting to that area, and I think I have a few things to say having used this a little bit now. So, like with any contrast paints, this definitely needs super, super high contrast in the priming step, because right now everything looks a little flat. You know, falling in reverse? Yeah. Right now everything looks a little bland, I want to say. It's not that it looks bad. I just think that it doesn't look quite as vibrant as it should. Not the way that I would like it. It almost looks too, yeah, like I said, flat. But we haven't done any edge highlighting yet, so we'll bring it up. Yeah, it looks really heavy layers. So let's apply. We need one more thing. Hardened leather. Here we go. So there's the leather bits. So we made a couple mistakes. And that is the contrast just was not high enough. Speed painting, but not slapped up. Yeah. The contrast just wasn't high enough. To do an effective job. It needed to be much higher, I think. And as much as I like the application of these markers, I think that they are almost not fine enough for applications like this, because we're getting it sort of on everything. And it's very, and I'm trying to be careful. I'm not being like haphazard. The control is a little less than I'd like, I think. Oh yeah, absolutely. No, if you use this as your dedicated method, you'd have a really easy time just moving through your army. No doubt. But this is definitely a good experiment. I'm glad to have done it, because now I know how these perform. Where they could be useful, things like that. This is one of those. Age of Sigmar. Yes, I think you're right. And we're attempting to do the entire thing with these speed paint markers. Tugbobo. Which, by the way, thanks for coming back to stream. I haven't seen you in a minute. Thank you for being here. Tugbobo is awesome. If anybody was wondering. How to convert? I'm sure that you could. I think you just would slap like tech bits on them. And even then, you wouldn't have to do all that much. Because I do like them a lot. Now, what color? Now we're going to start getting a little fancier. We're going to use black now to get some differentiated panels in here before we come back and start using edge highlighting and things on this guy, because we've done all the blocked colors to this point. I don't have a wood color, so we'll probably have to pick something for the actual wood panel, though. I don't know. I would say, gosh, they're all pretty warrior-ish, so I would say Doombolt brown. Yeah. Let's do, I want this to be black right here. Or very much darker. The interior of the leg portion. Now, how black is that going to dry? Let's see. Because if it's so black that it just destroys the subtlety of it, then there you go. Everything is small. I want that to dry before we continue. But let's go back to the red so that I can put it on the tongue. Where's my red? There it is. Let's see if I can actually achieve this. Probably not. Oh, I got it. Okay. Looks like a knob. let's do the pallid bone really quick, just for the portion here. Because I'm still committing to using the markers for everything for right now. There we go. So that black really turned that black, and it destroyed all of the subtlety in there. So I don't like that. Not as much. But we have lots to think about. But that's going to be it for today. We did the entire thing with the markers this time. I'm not going to keep them this way. I promise you, I'm not going to keep them this way. In fact, I may repaint this entirely because this is the big boss of the group. But I wanted to see how it worked. And I can say a couple things about these markers. The markers are fun to use, but I can see how they're extremely limited in their capability, in their like in their application. You have to be really specific, and maybe not with a model as detailed as this with as many nooks and crannies as this. It's definitely interesting. The application is good, but the use case is limited. They're a quality product. Like I will say, this is a quality product, and it did a couple things. The brush version of this is much more difficult to use. Yeah, it's a good enough start to a model, absolutely. No, you could do a lot of stuff here. But I would say do a little bit better a job than I did on the initial priming and contrast portion, because right now, as you can see, it looks the same. It looks like it's the same value kind of all the way from the top down. Where if it was a higher contrast, like we had used a much darker or even a black prime and then put a white zenithal highlight with the sponge, that would have been much, much more stark and provided a whole lot more character. Where we did a lighter gray and then the white, it just wasn't enough. But I'm still pleased with learning how these worked, and we'll continue. But anyway, thanks everybody for hanging out with me today. Thank you, Tugboat, for being here. Thank you, Tism. Thank you, Blood. Thank you, everybody. I will see you on the next one. Good night. Good night, Dragon. Thanks so much, you guys. See you later. By the way, check out these credits. How VIP? I actually need to check the settings for that, because it should be, I think it should be for subscribers, and I know it knows that you're a subscriber. I'll have to check the settings. But Blood, you're definitely a VIP in my heart. Anyway, thanks everybody.